Could the Philippine Air Force be on the verge of a transformation unlike anything in its history? For decades, the PF has struggled with limited resources, aging platforms, and a focus on internal security rather than external defense. But today, something is changing. Quietly, steadily, and strategically, the Philippines is laying the groundwork for a modern air force that, while smaller in size, could resemble the structure and combat philosophy of one of Asia's most advanced air arms, the Republic of Korea Air Force. Defense analysts have begun using a new phrase to describe this emerging vision: a mini ROKAF. Not because the Philippines intends to match South Korea aircraft for aircraft, but because it appears to be adopting a similar layered force structure. One built around light fighters, multi-role jets, advanced trainers, and modern force multipliers, all integrated into a single combat system. At the center of this discussion are four aircraft types: the FA-50 Block 70, the F-16V Viper, the A-29B Super Tucano, and potentially the KF-21 Boramae. Together, these platforms could redefine how the Philippine Air Force fights, trains, and projects power. But how realistic is this vision, and why does South Korea play such a central role in it? Let's break it down. The Philippine Air Force of today is not the same force it was even a decade ago. Following years of capability gaps, especially after the retirement of its last supersonic fighters in the early 2000s, the PAF has spent the last 10 years rebuilding from near zero. The introduction of the FA-50 light fighter marked the first real step toward restoring credible air combat capability. Since then, modernization has accelerated. Rather than pursuing a single silver bullet aircraft, Philippine planners appear to be shaping a balanced and sustainable fleet, one that fits the country's geography, budget, and security environment. This approach closely mirrors the philosophy used by South Korea. The Republic of Korea Air Force does not rely on just one aircraft type. Instead, it operates a tiered structure: advanced trainers and light fighters for transition and secondary combat, multi-role fighters for air defense and strike high-end platforms for deterrence and deep strike, supported by force multipliers like airborne early warning, tankers, and electronic warfare aircraft. The Philippines cannot afford the scale of the ROKAF, but it may be able to replicate the logic behind it. At the heart of the PAF's future force is an aircraft it already knows well: the FA-50. Originally acquired as a lead-in fighter trainer with limited combat capability, the FA-50 has proven far more versatile than many expected. It has been used for air patrol missions, strike operations, training fighter pilots, and even limited air defense tasks. Now, with the FA-50 Block 70, that capability expands significantly. This upgraded version incorporates features normally found on much larger fighters: modern fire control radar, improved data links, enhanced weapons compatibility, better situational awareness for pilots. In effect, the FA-50 Block 70 blurs the line between a trainer and a true light combat aircraft. For the Philippines, this makes perfect sense. The country's archipelagic geography demands aircraft that can be deployed quickly, operated from multiple bases, maintained without extreme logistical burden. The FA-50 fits all of those requirements. More importantly, it serves as a bridge, a stepping stone between basic training aircraft and high-performance multi-role fighters. This is exactly how South Korea uses similar platforms in its own air force. While the FA-50 forms the backbone, it is not intended to carry the heaviest combat burden alone. That role belongs to a true multi-role fighter, and for the Philippines, the most realistic candidate is the F-16V. The F-16V, also known as the Viper, represents the most advanced evolution of the legendary F-16 platform. With upgrades that include AESA radar, advanced mission computers, improved electronic warfare systems, compatibility with modern air-to-air and air-to-ground weapons, the F-16V is a fully capable frontline fighter by modern standards. For the PAF, acquiring the F-16V would immediately restore credible air defense capability, long-range strike options, interoperability with allied air forces, particularly the United States. In the mini ROKAF concept, the F-16V plays a role similar to South Korea's upgraded F-16 fleet, handling the bulk of air defense and strike missions while operating alongside lighter aircraft like the FA-50. This layered approach ensures flexibility without overextending budgets. While attention often focuses on fighters, the Philippine Air Force cannot ignore its long-standing internal security mission. This is where the A-29B Super Tucano comes in. Designed for counterinsurgency and light attack, the Super Tucano excels in environments where jets are unnecessary or inefficient. Its advantages include long loiter time, precision strike capability, low operating costs, excellent performance in austere conditions. For operations against insurgent groups, the A-29B remains one of the most cost-effective platforms available. Rather than replacing jets, it complements them, freeing high-end aircraft to focus on external defense and deterrence. South Korea follows a similar philosophy, using different aircraft types for different mission sets rather than forcing one platform to do everything. The most ambitious element of the PAF's future vision is the possible acquisition of the KF-21 Boramae. Developed by South Korea as a next-generation fighter, the KF-21 occupies a unique space between 4th and 5th generation aircraft. It is often described as a 4.5 generation fighter with stealth features, offering reduced radar cross-section, advanced avionics, high situational awareness, multi-role combat sea capability. For a country like the Philippines, the KF-21 represents a potential leap forward, without the extreme costs associated with full 5th generation fighters like the F-35. More importantly, it fits naturally into a fleet already centered on Korean aerospace technology. Pilots transitioning from the FA-50 would find familiar systems, philosophies, and training pipelines. Maintenance crews and logistics planners would benefit from shared infrastructure and support frameworks. This is not accidental. It is the result of a deliberate strategy by Korea Aerospace Industries. Korea Aerospace Industries, or KAI, views the Philippines as more than just a customer. The long-standing FA-50 relationship has created trust, operational familiarity, interoperability, and political goodwill. From KAI's perspective, the Philippines is an ideal partner for expanding its aerospace footprint in Southeast Asia. From the Philippine side, South Korea offers something few others can: modern technology paired with flexible partnership terms. This growing relationship sets the stage for deeper cooperation, possibly including the KF-21. So far, the pieces are coming together. FA-50 Block 70 as the backbone, F-16V as the primary multi-role fighter, A-29B for internal security, and the KF-21 as a potential high-end capability. Together, they form a coherent and realistic force structure, one that mirrors the logic, if not the scale, of the Republic of Korea Air Force. But there is a major external factor that could reshape this entire plan. A move by Indonesia, one of the KF-21 program's original partners, has sent shockwaves through the regional defense community. And surprisingly, it may actually work in the Philippines' favor. Just as the Philippine Air Force's long-term vision began to take shape, an unexpected development emerged from the region, one that few defense observers predicted. Indonesia, one of South Korea's most important partners in the KF-21 Boramae program, made a strategic decision that sent ripples across the global defense industry. Jakarta signed a major agreement to pursue a next-generation fighter from Turkish Aerospace Industries, effectively placing a question mark over its long-standing commitment to the KF-21. At first glance, this move appeared to be bad news for Korea Aerospace Industries, but when viewed from Manila, the implications may be very different. In fact, Indonesia's decision could open a strategic window, one that might accelerate the Philippines' transformation into a modern air power. Indonesia was never just another export customer for the KF-21. From the very beginning, Jakarta was positioned as a core development partner, committing to funding a portion of the program in exchange for technology access, industrial participation, and a future fleet of KF-21 fighters for the Indonesian Air Force. The plan was ambitious. Indonesia was expected to acquire at least 50 aircraft, helping to stabilize production numbers and reduce unit costs for all participants. However, over time, cracks began to appear. Budget delays, payment disputes, and shifting political priorities created friction within the partnership. While cooperation never fully collapsed, confidence in Indonesia's long-term commitment slowly eroded. Then came the announcement that changed everything. Indonesia signed a deal to acquire 48 units of a Turkish 5th-generation fighter, signaling a potential pivot away from the KF-21 as its primary future combat aircraft. For Kai, this raised serious concerns. Modern fighter programs rely heavily on economies of scale. The more aircraft produced, the lower the per-unit cost. The more stable the supply chain, the stronger the long-term sustainment ecosystem. Indonesia's reduced enthusiasm, or potential reduction in KF-21 orders, creates uncertainty in all three areas. For KAI, this means fewer guaranteed production slots, greater pressure to secure new export customers, increased urgency to demonstrate international confidence in the platform. This is where the Philippines enters the picture. Unlike Indonesia, the Philippines is not a development partner burdened by legacy funding commitments. Instead, it represents a clean slate buyer, one that can negotiate terms based on current realities rather than past promises. And that gives Manila leverage. Indonesia's shift does not weaken the KF-21 as an aircraft. What it does is change the business environment surrounding it. If KAI faces reduced demand from one of its expected buyers, it becomes more motivated to offer competitive pricing, provide flexible payment terms, include enhanced support packages, explore deeper technology cooperation. For the Philippines, this could translate into opportunities that might not have existed otherwise. Instead of being a late adopter paying premium prices, the PAF could position itself as a strategic anchor customer in Southeast Asia. That status carries weight. One of the biggest barriers to acquiring advanced fighters is not the aircraft itself, it's the total life cycle cost. This includes training, spare parts, software updates, weapons integration, long-term maintenance, and upgrades. KAI understands that for countries like the Philippines, affordability over 30 to 40 years matters more than headline performance figures. If Indonesia's KF-21 numbers decline, KAI has strong incentives to make the platform more attractive to new buyers by bundling training and logistics, offering localized maintenance solutions, reducing upfront acquisition costs, extending support timelines. For a growing Air Force like the PAF, these factors are just as important as radar range or payload capacity. What makes the KF-21 especially appealing to the Philippines is how naturally it fits into the existing force structure. Unlike Western fifth-generation fighters, the KF-21 was designed with scalability and export adaptability in mind. From cockpit layout to avionics philosophy, it shares design DNA with the FA-50. This creates several advantages: shorter pilot conversion timelines, familiar maintenance procedures, reduced training costs, streamlined logistics. In practical terms, FA-50 pilots could transition to the KF-21 without the cultural and technical shock that often comes with moving to entirely different aircraft families. This is exactly how South Korea manages its own fleet. And it's a key reason analysts describe the Philippine vision as a mini ROKAF. However, advanced fighters alone do not create a modern air force. What truly separates capable air arms from symbolic ones is the presence of force multipliers, support platforms that expand situational awareness, coordination, and reach. This is another area where the Philippine Air Force appears to be thinking differently than in the past. Modernization plans increasingly emphasize systems that work behind the scenes, but shape every battle in the air. One of the most critical gaps in the PF today is airborne early warning and control. Without AEW&C aircraft, fighter jets rely heavily on ground-based radar, which is limited by terrain, curvature of the Earth, and vulnerability to attack. Airborne early warning platforms change that equation entirely. They provide extended radar coverage, early detection of threats, real-time battle management, enhanced coordination between aircraft. For an archipelagic nation like the Philippines, AEW&C is not a luxury. It's a force multiplier that multiplies the effectiveness of every fighter in the sky. South Korea treats AEW&C as a cornerstone of its air defense system. A mini ROKAF model would require the Philippines to do the same. Another key capability under consideration is aerial refueling. Without tanker support, even advanced fighters are constrained by fuel limits. With tankers, their operational reach expands dramatically. For aircraft like the F-16V, and potentially the KF-21, mid-air refueling would allow longer patrols, extended maritime coverage, rapid redeployment between bases, greater deterrence presence. Multi-role tanker transport aircraft would also double as strategic airlift platforms, supporting both military and humanitarian missions. This dual-use nature makes them politically and operationally attractive. Modern air warfare is not just about speed and firepower, it's about information dominance. Electronic warfare and signals intelligence platforms allow air forces to detect enemy emissions, disrupt communications, jam radar systems, protect friendly aircraft. Rather than building large, specialized aircraft from scratch, many countries now mount these systems on business jet platforms, which are cheaper to operate and easier to maintain. For the Philippine Air Force, such platforms could dramatically enhance survivability and effectiveness without requiring massive fleets. Again, this mirrors how more advanced air forces structure their support capabilities. Unmanned aerial systems also play a growing role in the PAF's future vision. Medium-altitude, long-endurance drones provide persistent surveillance, maritime domain awareness, target tracking, intelligence collection. By pairing drones with manned fighters, the PAF could create a layered reconnaissance and strike network, one that maximizes coverage while minimizing risk. This is another hallmark of modern air forces, including the Republic of Korea Air Force. When viewed as individual acquisitions, none of these platforms seem revolutionary. But when viewed as a system, they tell a different story. The Philippine Air Force is no longer modernizing in isolation. It is building an integrated combat ecosystem, one designed to detect threats early, respond rapidly, sustain operations, and coordinate across domains. This is exactly how South Korea built its air power over time. The difference is scale, not concept. Timing is everything in defense procurement. Right now, multiple factors are aligning. The PAF's growing operational experience with the FA-50 increased defense cooperation with South Korea shifting regional security dynamics and Indonesia's unexpected strategic pivot. Together, these create a window of opportunity. If the Philippines moves decisively, it could secure capabilities that once seemed far beyond reach. By now, the idea of a mini ROKAF should no longer sound like speculation. It is emerging as a coherent strategy, one shaped by realism, partnerships, and long-term planning. But the final piece of the puzzle remains unanswered. Can the Philippines sustain this transformation politically, financially, and operationally? And what would it mean for Southeast Asia's balance of air power if it succeeds? The idea of the Philippine Air Force becoming a mini version of the Republic of Korea Air Force is no longer just an abstract theory discussed by analysts and defense watchers. It is a vision slowly taking shape, guided by practical decisions, realistic force planning, and carefully chosen partnerships. But ambition alone does not create air power. To turn this vision into reality, the Philippines must overcome three decisive challenges: political continuity, financial sustainability, operational integration. Whether the PAF can manage these factors will determine if this transformation becomes a historic success or another unrealized plan. Modern Air Force development is not a one-term project. Fighter aircraft programs span decades, crossing multiple administrations, budget cycles, and shifting political priorities. For the Philippine Air Force, consistency will be just as important as capability. The good news is that recent trends suggest a growing consensus. Across multiple governments, modernization of the armed forces has increasingly been framed not as an optional upgrade, but as a national necessity. Rising regional tensions, maritime security concerns, and alliance commitments have reshaped how air power is viewed in Manila. Unlike in the past, Air Force investments are no longer seen as prestige purchases. They are increasingly understood as deterrence tools, meant to prevent conflict rather than provoke it. This shift in mindset is crucial. South Korea's own Air Force did not become what it is today overnight. It grew because successive governments committed to long-term planning, even during periods of economic and political uncertainty. For the Philippines to follow a similar path, it must protect modernization programs from sudden reversals and short-term political calculations. No matter how strong the political will, defense modernization ultimately faces one unavoidable constraint: cost. The Philippine Air Force will never match the size of larger regional air forces, and it doesn't need to. What it needs is efficiency. This is where the mini ROKAF concept truly shines. Instead of pursuing a small number of extremely expensive platforms, the PAF's emerging structure emphasizes a mix of light and multi-role fighters, shared logistics and training pipelines, gradual capability growth, multi-role platforms that serve both combat and peacetime missions. The FA-50 Block 70 exemplifies this approach. It is affordable to operate, versatile in mission profile, and compatible with higher-end fighters. The F-16V offers proven capability without the financial shock of next-generation stealth platforms, and the KF-21, if acquired, would represent a controlled step into advanced air combat without crossing into unsustainable cost territory. This layered structure allows the Philippines to scale capability without scaling expenses exponentially. Possessing modern aircraft does not automatically create air power. True combat effectiveness comes from integration, the ability of platforms, sensors, and personnel to operate as a single system. This is perhaps the most challenging aspect of modernization. To succeed, the PAF must invest heavily in training pipelines, command and control infrastructure, secure data links, and joint operational doctrine. Fighters like the F-16V and KF-21 are designed to operate in networked environments. Their full potential can only be realized when connected to airborne early warning platforms, ground-based radar, and allied systems. South Korea mastered this by building its air force as an information-centric system, not just a collection of aircraft. The Philippines is beginning to move in the same direction. Aircraft can be purchased. Pilots and maintainers must be built. One of the most underestimated aspects of Air Force modernization is the development of human capital. Advanced aircraft demand highly trained pilots, skilled maintenance crews, and sophisticated planners and commanders. Here again, the FA-50 plays a critical role. As both a trainer and a combat aircraft, it allows pilots to develop tactical skills early, skills that transfer directly to more advanced fighters. By the time pilots transition to platforms like the F-16V or KF-21, they are not starting from scratch. They are building on an established foundation. This mirrors the South Korean model, where training aircraft are tightly integrated into the operational fleet structure. If the Philippine Air Force successfully completes this transformation, the effects will extend beyond national borders. A modern integrated PAF would strengthen regional deterrence, enhance alliance interoperability, contribute to collective security in the Indo-Pacific, and improve maritime domain awareness in contested waters. Importantly, this would not represent an aggressive shift. Instead, it would signal that the Philippines is capable of defending its airspace, supporting allies, and responding to crises without over-reliance on external forces. In a region where air power increasingly shapes strategic outcomes, even a modest but well-structured force can have outsized influence. Few aircraft generate as much debate as the KF-21 Boramae. For the Philippines, acquiring the KF-21 would be about more than performance figures or stealth features. It would represent confidence in long-term modernization, deep trust in South Korea as a defense partner, and entry into a new tier of air combat capability. At the same time, the decision must be made carefully. The PAF does not need the KF-21 to exist, but acquiring it would dramatically accelerate its evolution. Whether the Philippines chooses to move forward with the Boramae will depend on cost negotiations, support guarantees, technology access, and alignment with broader defense strategy. Indonesia's shifting position in the program may give Manila leverage, but leverage only matters if used wisely. South Korea's air power did not emerge from ambition alone. It was built on gradual modernization, strategic partnerships, domestic capability development, and a clear understanding of national defense priorities. The Philippines appears to be adopting many of these same principles, adjusted for its own geography, economy, and security environment. That is why the term mini ROKAF resonates. It is not about imitation, it is about adaptation. So, is the Philippine Air Force truly on its way to becoming a mini version of the Republic of Korea Air Force? The answer is yes, with conditions. If political commitment holds, if financial discipline is maintained, and if integration and training are prioritized, then the Philippines could soon operate one of the most modern, balanced, and capable air forces in Southeast Asia. Not the biggest, not the most expensive, but one of the smartest. Air power in the 21st century is no longer defined solely by size or speed. It is defined by coherence, connectivity, and capability alignment. The Philippine Air Force appears to be moving in that direction, step by step, platform by platform. And if that journey continues, the skies over the Philippines may soon tell a very different story. What do you think? Can the Philippine Air Force truly become a mini ROKAF? Will the KF-21 Boramae one day fly in Philippine colors? Share your thoughts in the comments. Like, subscribe, and stay informed for more in-depth defense analysis. Until next time, stay safe and thank you for watching.